Breaking news, fellas. Mali has cut all political ties with Ukraine for allowing Tuareg fighters and Malian soldiers.
On behalf of our highest authorities, I have the great honor of reading the government's press release number 068, the content of which is as follows. The transitional government of the Republic of Mali has learned with deep shock of the subversive remarks by which Mr. Andrei Yusuf, spokesman for the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Agency, admitted Ukraine's involvement in a cowardly, treacherous and barbaric attack by armed terrorist groups that resulted in the death of elements of the Malian defense and security forces in Tinzouten as well as material damage. These remarks were reinforced by Mr. Yuri Pivovarov, the Ukrainian ambassador to Senegal, who openly and unequivocally displayed his country's support for international terrorism, particularly in Mali. Worse, in their comments, these Ukrainian officials announced that other results are to come. These extremely serious statements, which have not been denied or condemned by the Ukrainian authorities, show clear official support from the Ukrainian government for terrorism in Africa, the Sahel and more specifically in Mali. After a careful examination of the situation, the transitional government of the Republic of Mali emphasizes that the actions taken by the Ukrainian authorities violate the sovereignty of Mali, go beyond the scope of foreign interference, which is already condemnable in itself, and constitute a clear aggression by Mali, support for international terrorism in flagrant violation of international law, including the responsibility of the United Nations. The transitional government of the Republic of Mali strongly condemns Ukrainian aggression and denounces this hostility by the Ukrainian authorities, contrary to the position of neutrality observed by Mali, which has always called for a peaceful settlement of the crisis between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Furthermore, the transitional government of the Republic of Mali fully adheres to the diagnosis established by the Russian Federation, which has nevertheless warned the world for years about the neo-Nazi and villainous nature of the Ukrainian authorities, now allies of international terrorism, far from the aspirations of peace and stability of the Ukrainian people. Following the acknowledged and assumed involvement of Ukraine in the clear aggression of Mali, the transitional government of the Republic of Mali has decided on the following measures. 1. The immediate severance of diplomatic relations between the Republic of Mali and Ukraine, the latter whose destinies are unfortunately entrusted to puppets confusing the international scene with the stage. I repeat, 1. The immediate severance of diplomatic relations between the Republic of Mali and Ukraine, the latter whose destinies are unfortunately entrusted to puppets confusing the international scene with the stage. I repeat for the last time, 1. The immediate severance of diplomatic relations between the Republic of Mali and Ukraine, the latter whose destinies are unfortunately entrusted to puppets confusing the international scene with the stage. 2. The referral to the competent judicial authorities following the remarks of Mr. Andrei Yusuf and Yuri Pivovarov, which constitute acts of terrorism and propaganda for terrorism. 3. Taking the necessary measures to prevent any destabilization of Mali from African states, particularly from Ukrainian embassies set up in the sub-region with terrorists disguised as diplomats. 4. Formally alerting regional and international bodies as well as states that support Ukraine by informing them that this country has openly and publicly displayed its support for terrorism. Consequently, Mali considers support for Ukraine as support for international terrorism. Mali calls on the international community to be responsible for Ukraine's deliberate choice to support terrorism in a global context where there is unanimity on the imperative to combat this scourge. Mali calls in particular on African states and peoples who are seized by peace to denounce its subversive actions that threaten the stability of the African continent. The transitional government of the Republic of Mali reiterates its thanks to the countries friendly to Mali that have shown their solidarity in the face of the terrorist attacks perpetrated with the assistance of foreign sponsors. The transitional government of the Republic of Mali notes that this aggression maintained by Ukraine is part of the broader pattern of certain actors who actively support and instrumentalize armed terrorist groups allied with rebel groups for hegemonic and neo-colonial purposes, and to break the dynamic of emancipation, reconquest of sovereignty and socio-economic development initiated by the Confederation of Sahel States. The acts of aggression in the UN to achieve their objective, on the contrary, strengthen the commitment and determination of Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali and the Republic of Niger within the framework of the Confederation of Sahel States to continue with more vigor their resolute march towards strengthening sovereignty and taking control of their destiny for the happiness of the populations of the AES. Mali bows to the memory of all victims of insecurity in the Sahel and reaffirms that the crimes committed will not go unpunished. May God bless Mali and the AES, delivered in Bamako on August 4, 2024. Thank you for your very kind attention.
What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's not a beautiful day, especially not for Malians. Thank you very much for coming back here. You very much appreciate it. This is where we share, news on an African perspective. I think it's very much appreciated that you guys are here. Okay, so we're going to jump into this very quickly. Mali. Here's a map. You can see I'm outside. It's for you guys. I got a microphone in my car. How crazy is this? It's because I love you fellas. Okay, so this is Mali. Beautiful people, lovely country. It's been going through turmoil for the past couple of years. The Malian government has cut ties with Ukraine. All political ties. Because Ukraine was involved in an attack that unalived many Wagner military and many Malians as well. Mali has a group of people called Tuaregs. These Tuaregs are generally in the north of Mali. This group of people wants to cut Mali into two. They want to create their own country within Mali. The Malian government is not okay with that. So, because Mali has been very friendly with Russia for the past couple of years, Ukraine automatically felt like they could help the Malians' enemies to attack not only Russians, but only the Malians. So the Malian government is very, very upset. They sever all ties with Ukraine after Ukrainian spokesperson confirmed that Ukraine provided the intelligence and capabilities to these people to unalive a maximum of Wagners and Malians.
The fact that the rebels received the necessary information that allowed them to conduct a successful operation against Russian war criminals, the whole world has already seen this. In principle, this can be commented on. We certainly will not disclose any details, but let's say there will be a continuation. This is sensitive information. Therefore, everything that Ukraine does is happening within the limits and within the framework of international law, taking into account all the necessary procedures.
And then after, in Senegal, the Ukrainian ambassador in Senegal also confirmed and published a video where Wagner groups in Mali and Malian soldiers were unalived by this group of people. So for context, fellas, you have Ukraine, you have Russia, you have Mali, you have the Tuaregs. Now, Mali has been battling with Tuaregs in a very internal issue where Tuaregs, which are some people in Mali, would like to take a part of Mali and make it their own country. They want to separate from everybody else. Tuaregs, as you can see, they don't look very much like you, okay? They don't look like me. They look like much lighter, okay? They're very different. So they feel like they would like to create their own country and cut Mali into two parts. The central government in Mali is not okay with that. Therefore, they've been fighting for quite some time. And this started after the death of Mohamed Gaddafi. Before Mohamed Gaddafi, we did not see such issues. After they unalived Gaddafi, then they came claiming areas of Mali, wanting to stay forever and create their own country. Now, Mali has kicked out French. Mali is a country that was colonized by French for many, many years. And in 2022, they decided to kick out French people and sever all correspondence and everything because they felt like French were profiting from these African countries without these African countries necessarily gaining anything. So if a relationship is not a two-way road, it just felt like, you know what, let's cut this relationship off. And France clearly was not very happy about that. They felt like Russia was influencing Malians into making these decisions, as if Malians are just children who cannot think for themselves. After so many years of colonialism, so many years of looting and many other things, Malians clearly decided they wanted freedom. They wanted to think for themselves, to make their own choices, to not feel like their president is a puppet of a European country. Now, the Russians came in after the French left, and Emmanuel Macron was not very happy about that. However, we all know what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. In Ukraine, they're not the best of friends. And for some reason, Ukrainians felt like they needed to go help the enemies of Malians in Mali in order to hurt Russians. Now, my issue is this. If you and Russia have issues, why don't you fight it out in Ukraine or in Russia? When you decide to go fight your enemy in somebody else's house and burn the trees, burn the roof, break the glasses, are you fighting your enemy or are you fighting everybody? When you decide to fight your enemy at somebody else's party and you break the TV, you break the glasses, are you fighting your enemy or are you fighting everybody around? Is that considerate? That's a good question you need to answer. So the issue is they didn't even hide themselves saying, like, you know, somebody will do something and just hide. No, they came forward. We provided the Tuareg with the intelligence, with the capabilities to unalive a maximum of Russians. And by unaliving, they said about 85 Russians were unalive and about 30-something Malians. And yeah, there's no remorse about that. How do people feel about that? So Malians say, you know what, let's sever the ties. Since you are helping this group of people that is considered a terrorist group, then yeah, let's just break it down here. Now, Senegal has also jumped in and said, we are not partaking in this, because in Senegal, the ambassador of Ukraine published a video saying, you know, very happy on what's happened in Mali, very happy to see Wagner Group on the floor, very happy, by the way, yeah, Malians were on the floor too, unalived. So he published and posted this video on their page saying, yeah, congratulations our people on doing a tremendous job. So the Senegalese government, via the Minister of International Affairs, said to them, you cannot do this. They summoned the Ukrainian ambassador saying, how can you do that? I mean, Mali is our brother. We will not authorize you to support any form of terror group or terrorist because Tuareg people are considered as terrorists. You are not allowed to publish any propaganda about these type of things, not in our country. They summoned them. Now the questions arise, fellas. I think we need to examine things for what they are, not necessarily for how we feel. I mean, I understand what's happening in Ukraine. It's unjust, it's unfair on many Ukrainians that have to find themselves in a war that they never asked for. We can understand that. But that's an internal problem between Ukraine and Russia. It has nothing to do with Africans. Now, if Africans made the choice, let me remind you here, there was a moment when they asked the United Nations, which African countries, how do you feel about Russia? Should we punish Russia? Most African countries abstained from saying anything. So most African countries felt like they will not get involved in the issue between Russia and Ukraine. And Mali was part of the countries that actually did not condemn Russia at all. So for some reason, I don't like you, but I'm not going to tell you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to arm people that don't like you so they can arm you. That's exactly what it is. Let me remind you again, there was a moment here a few months ago where some of the Ukrainians politicians went to Africa trying to make friends. They went to Côte d'Ivoire, opening an embassy, went to different African countries trying to make friends because they felt like many Africans were not siding with them. Because at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, many Africans were blocked in ports by the trains because they were trying to leave the country. As they were trying to leave the country, they were told, no, not you. Ukrainians first. There was even a video of a Nigerian woman that was asking to go, and they said to her, no, you can't go. It's women first. She's like, but I'm a woman. They just looked at her.
I walked for 12 good hours, and it's not an exaggeration. The traffic warden saw me and said I should go to a shelter to sleep, and I slept, and he said the next day that there is a bus going from that shelter straight to the Polish border. And when it was time to get on this bus, The Ukrainians said, just Ukrainians, literally as a black person. I even lied that I was pregnant. They didn't care. I was begging. The official literally looked me in my eye and said in his language, only Ukrainians, that's all. That if you are black, you should walk.
So many Africans felt they were discriminated against. And after that, they abstained to get involved from the story that happened. But now, what is aggravating is to see that, okay, I can come to your house and create mayhem. Because there's a way you could be fighting the Russians in Ukraine. Or bomb Moscow. How about that? Bomb St. Petersburg or whatever. Now, if you take your war and you export your war into somebody else's country because you're fighting your enemy, are you respecting that person, the host? No, you're not. You're not respecting the host. And let me just ask you a question. If an American went to Ukraine to go and fight for Ukrainians, and Afghans, people from Afghanistan, come and bomb Americans in Ukraine, would Ukraine be happy about that? Let me restart myself. If Americans who are enemies to Taliban went to Ukraine to support Ukraine, we know Americans are Ukraine and supporting Ukraine in learning and many other things. Now, if Taliban came into Ukraine to bomb Americans, and by the way, some Ukrainians were unalive, would Ukraine be happy about that? Or would Ukraine sever the tie with Taliban government? That's exactly what's going to happen. So why isn't that respect gifted to Africans? Why can't you respect? This shows you, fellas, they don't respect you. They would not do that in China because China can hit. Because China has power. They would not do that in India because India has capabilities. They would not do that to France. Yeah, there's Russian embassy in France. Nobody attacks it. Are you telling me there are no Ukrainians in France? There are Ukrainians in France. But they can hurt Africans. And the issue is, where are all your countries? Why aren't Africans coming together and condemning what's happened? I mean, I can understand. Do whatever you want to do to the Russians, but don't do them in a place where Africans can get hit. I mean, Africans have no issues with you. They have no beef with you. Yes, they understand. And many Africans actually are siding with Ukraine, understanding what they're going through. Many Africans, even though they're not vocal enough, they're actually very sorry with what's happening over there. Why aren't many African countries coming together and condemning the fact that they can bring war into Africa? Where's your country? Where's Cameroon? Yes, Senegal has spoken. Where's Cameroon? Where's Nigeria? Where's Gabon? Where's Congo? Where's Rwanda? Where are all these countries? Where's Uganda? Why are you not saying something about this? This is unacceptable. No African nation can take war to Europe and for European country to entertain it. Not possible. It doesn't matter what the issue is. If an African country, it's not possible. It is not possible. And I think this reminds me of something. Before they came and took out Gaddafi, they planned this. African nation knew about that. Many Africans knew about that. Why didn't Africans stand against that? A NATO force, or whatever you call that thing, coming into Africa, in your backyards, coming and finishing another president like yourselves, and you're just looking. You not even say a word. You're cowards. You people are cowards. I'm sorry, you are cowards. That is a cowardly move. We are all African countries. It's very sad. Now, after this has happened, how will Africans really feel about Ukraine? That's a good question. If you're ready to arm people in a way that they're going to hurt us straight because you're not happy with the guy we're talking to, is this a good way to create friendship? Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a pleasure. God bless.